Got to get that hydration going. Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so I appreciate you guys stopping by, taking a look at my video here. For all my people from the Philippines, magandang umaga, maayong buntag, kamusta to you guys, Hagala and Kabagan. Appreciate you guys stopping by, taking a look at my stuff. For anybody who is coming from Russia, who does speak Russian, I say привет to you. Spasibo for coming by and taking a look at my video. Appreciate it very much. Yep. So this is the first round of today. So this is round number six. Almost got that wrong. This is round number 6. So yeah, between Sergey Karjakin and Wesley. So if you guys are ready to go, let me make sure this is up, and we'll go ahead and take a look and see what we got. All right, so we got D4, knight to F6. So we start off with an Indian. You guys have seen this many times. You know, you have so many different things you can do from here. You know, you have Queen's Gambits and Catalans and Nimzo Indians and stuff like that. So we see Bishop to F4. So it looks like we might be getting into like a London situation. And then we see C5. So C5 comes, we see D5, G6. We have knight to C3. We have D6 and E4. So for those of you that play this as white, and so this is kind of like a Benoni. So it says it's an Indian, right? But it looks kind of like a hybrid between the Indian and the Benoni type situation. A lot of the times when you see the Benoni, you see a C4 coming, and then you see the pawn push right here. So these are very similar structures that you get into with that. So we see Bishop to G7. We also kind of have some modern type ideas and thoughts back behind this too. So we see A4. I have to say, honestly, A4 is a little bit premature because usually A4 comes after A6, and it's just trying to prevent, this B5 expansion going, because a lot of times you'll see A6 and you'll see B5 and you'll see B4, and then now you've undermined the protection of this pawn in the middle. So without there being an A6, you really need to be focusing on, getting castled, getting your king out of the middle. Because as you guys can see, you're still a nice few moves away, at least 4 moves away from getting castled in this position. So we see castles by black. We see bishop to E2. And then the way that black is trying to take advantage of this premature wasting tempo is queen to B6. This actually is the novelty of the game. This is the first time we've seen this ever. And so we see rook to A3. So what I'm going to go ahead and do before I show you what was in the game and what, is the proper move, go ahead and try to guess how Wesley So takes full advantage of any of these wasted tempos from Karjakin. If you want to go ahead and do that, go ahead and do that right now. All right, cool. So like I said, white still has at least a few moves until they get castled. They are considerably behind. You see black has a good pawn chain. They got their king into safety. They just need to develop their queenside pieces. But they're severely on the attack right now. So for those of you that noticed that you have a check here, you also have a weak pawn here, and you have a pawn here, you guys would have seen knight takes E4. Knight takes E4 is kind of like exclammy, because after you see knight takes E4, you see queen to B4 with check, and you do see that this knight is undefended. So after queen blocks on D2, you see queen taking on E4, and you've just won a clear pawn. It's just a straight up pawn. So this is what happens, when you out of the opening with no justification, like, spin the tempo, doing something that kind of like, breaks the rules of the fundamentals, as far as, developing your pieces, as quickly as possible and getting castled. So if we back up, instead of rook to A3, the way to try to salvage the position is at least to defend with queen to C1. Yes, queen to C1. And then after queen to B4, then you would see F3. And so this was the way that you defend this position here. And I'm honestly not sure. Let me see here. It looks like after queen to C1, it feels like that's still there. I wonder why it's not. Yes. Okay, that's why. Okay, because in this position, the bishop is undefended, so that's the main issue. So after the rook comes here, you take it here, and you can't go here because it just undefends the bishop. Okay, yeah, I didn't take a look at that before the video, so you see me, I'm doing a little bit of investigative work while we're doing the video. But like I said, we got to queen taking e4, and so we have knight come into f3. We have bishop to f5, so the knight comes to h4. We have queen taking c2, which kind of gets the pawn back. Knight takes on f5, queen takes on f5, and we see castles by white. And so we are still in, say, 3, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So black black catches another pawn here. And so we see knight to a6. And it's actually not looking too bad, but like I said, white is down 2 pawns. So everything is pretty much similar, except for the pawns. So that's going to become very relevant later. So we see bishop to g5, kind of putting, like a threat on this e7 pawn, but that's easily defended with bishop to f6. The bishop comes to h6, knocks the rook over, and then we see rook to f3. Queen comes to e5, threatening another pawn, and we see bishop to b5. And we're thinking, if the queen does take here on b2, we see the bishop taking on e8. So we're going to at least be getting some type of compensation back, for after the queen trade, bishop here, we take here, and then something like that. We at least get a little bit of compensation back for losing another pawn. But we just see knight b4. So Wesley So says, hey man, if you want my rook, go ahead and take it. It's all good. In the neighborhood, I'm up 2 pawns. So, I mean, really kind of at the end of the day, I mean, it's not as strong as just moving the rook out of the way. But at the end of the day, yeah, you are looking still pretty good. So, you have the ability to give it up, and you're going to be looking pretty good still. So, bishop does take on e8. So, Karjakin says, let me go ahead and get that. Gift me the, well, no, you can't say gift me the pawn in this position, but gift me the rook. So, rook takes e8, and we see b3. The queen takes d5, so we have another pawn that's lost for white. So we see queen to e2. You guys remember me talking about trades. When you are up material, you do not want to trade. So if you can imagine, if the queen just traded here, I mean, you just have all these pawns rolling down the board, and you're going to be, it's nasty. So you definitely don't want to trade. So definitely stay away from that if you're down material. So that's why we see queen to e2. We see rook to c8. Rook takes f6. So we have an exchange sacrifice. That best case scenario, if we see the pawn taking queen to e7, black falls asleep and does something, I don't know, like this, and then doesn't have the ability to prevent checkmate. But I mean, you kind of have to be blind. Like, you can't just, nah. I mean, if he Ray Charles it and just, misses that, then that's how that's going to be. But we see knight to c6. After the queen would take here, we'd see either this or this, and that's going to be defending that perfectly. So, we're all good in the neighborhood still. So we see queen taking b7, trying to get some material back. Queen comes to e6, h3. We got d5, bishop down to d2. We see rook to b8. We got queen to c7, stepping away from that, the danger of the rook there. So the rook comes back over to c8, queen back to b7. We see king to g7, making sure we don't repeat. We're up way too much material to be repeating position. So the rook comes to e1. We see knight coming to e5. Queen taking on a7. So I feel like, Karjakin at this point, he's feeling like he's kind of gaining a little bit back. You have this knight kind of pinned here. Oops, that's a weird arrow. Knight kind of pinned here. So, we unpin with queen to d6. We got rook to c1. We got d4. We got a5. Knight to d3. Another thing too, I think he's thinking about is the fact that this passed pawn feels pretty strong. So he's cleared the way for that. But as you guys will see, there's not really a whole lot to do as far as pushing that pawn to victory. So we see rook over to d1 after it's attacked. We got rook to b8. We got a6. Rook takes b3. We have rook to a1. And then it might seem like you have to start kind of doing something to protect, this pawn from promoting. But Wesley So he's like, hey man, I'm gonna play the strongest move in the position. I'm gonna go c4. As you guys notice, these are just two completely passed pawns, and they can just basically just harass the crap out of white's pieces. So we have bishop to h6 with check, and that's just a bishop. We got king taking h6, so Wesley So's probably like, oh yeah, cool, let me get that. Gift me the bishop. So the queen takes on f7. We see knight to e5, knocking the queen back over. And we see c3. We see f4. We got c2. And we got pawn takes e5. And then we see queen takes e5. And it is actually in this position that Karjakin does resign the game. I'm going to show you the alternate move. Instead of taking on e5 with the queen, you can actually place a check on b1 with the rook. And just a sample variation, if the king comes to f2, you would see rook taking a1, and you'd be giving up the queen, but you're going to get one right back after c1 equals queen. Queen takes d4. That's really the only way to prevent checkmate, because as you guys can see, you have checkmate and win and on tap right here. So you have to defend that. And after something sadistic like queen g1 check, you know, you're going to be giving up the queen this way. And I think it probably works out around the same. You're probably going to have to sacrifice the queen here or something like that, because, you know, this rook is coming down here. It doesn't matter what you do with this rook on this rank. You're going to be moving this rook down here and queening, and you just have way too much material, and there's just not a way to really do anything. So I appreciate it very much taking a look at this game. So I'll say Maraming Salamat Po, Aking Bagay Kabagan, Messiah Akong Makita Kang Muli. Appreciate you guys very much, and spasibo to my people that speak Russian. I appreciate you guys very much for coming and taking a look at my video. Put some comments below. I also have my donation stuff if you guys feel generous. I appreciate every little bit I get. It just helps me continue to do my thing. And let me know what other games you want to see. I'll be should be covering the rest of the games from today. Hopefully I'll be able to keep up with it, because they go pretty fast because they're rapid games. So I'm going to be hopping and getting onto this next video, but I will see you guys next time. All right.